Dude, I really dig that song on 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 the intro. Welcome to the Occult Rejects. Should have started with that. I am one of your two hosts, Jules, the host of the greypilledpodcast. With me, the second host, Headless Giant, the host of the Headless Giant podcast. I am the Mississippi Mystic. He is the Hellenic Schizo poster. And this is Rustic Gods. Episode 5. Episode 5, everybody. Hope everyone had a good week. Headless, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I had a terrible day at work, as it is always on Friday. I'm used to it by now.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go. This is going to be a good one. So I think a lot of people wonder about the centaurs. What's going on with the centaurs? And we're going to get to the bottom of that because we've got the centaur god, Chiron.
Yes, we do.
If you don't know about Chiron, he plays a very pivotal role in Greek mythology. And also, very misunderstood role intentionally. So, I guess let's start with the modern interpretation of the Chiron, right? Let's look at that real quick. Let's see here if I could find it. So in modern days, they've taken this figure of Chiron and they've turned him into a pedophile, right? So he's not a teacher. He's actually sexually abusing children. All these children, all these heroes that grow up and do great things. The modern interpretation by a bunch of these, rainbow obsessed academics has been to turn him into a pedophile, but not the case. There is nothing in the Greek mythology that would imply that he's actually doing horrible things to these children, right? In fact, that's the opposite of his character in all of the myths.
It looks like he's helping the kids right here. If these are kids, they may be just regular, just regular sized humans. Was he a pretty big guy?
Yes. Well, he was not. I mean, centaurs, dude. They're half animal, and so this torso part of them had to be bigger too. So the centaurs themselves were very massive and imposing animal human hybrids. And it's funny because you don't see a lot of centaurs in other cultures, right? So you'll find that, the Pan mythology of a half human, half goat, that's repeated in other parts of the world. You'll find half human, half goat kind of figures or fawns in other parts of the world. Yeah, satyrs. But you're not going to find centaurs anywhere else. And I think that goes way, way back in history. Like, these are the first riders of the horse. And way back when, people didn't know what they were looking at when they saw people riding horses, right? Because this is like, if you can imagine an F-16 in the Stone Age, that's what the horse was, right? So when they saw people riding horseback, they thought that they were all one thing. This is the, theory at least. And so Thessaly, where all of the centaurs come from, is really close to the origin point for a lot of the give me a second. The Scythians, right? So the Scythians were some of the first horse riding people, and Thessaly had a lot of Scythians sort of occupying that territory, and they were undefeated in battle. They loved to drink. They loved to, carouse with women and all the rest of this stuff. And we see those character traits sort of carried on with the centaurs in Greek mythology, well, except for one, which is Chiron, right? So as we saw with that image you were showing, Chiron's wearing a Greek outfit. He doesn't need to. Like, it's covering up his chest and stuff. Like,
do you have one of those?
I just took a sheet and actually pinned that up, but
I have to make one. So we should probably start doing these shows in some kind of toga.
Full toga.
Yeah, dude. I'm down if you are. So
yeah. we do a part 6, we're coming back in togas.
Definitely.
Look out for that, ladies. Toga Fridays.
And
So
Nick in the toga with the thing on his head.
oh, that's gonna be great. But yeah, that's make it more like a symposium feel where everybody's just wearing sheets and chilling out, drinking wine, you know.
Yeah.
You got to get some wine. And the Greek way to drink wine is kind of interesting. What they would do is 50% wine, 50% water.
That's
right?
smart. That's so you don't get drunk as fast. Dude, I'm sure their wine was stout too, bro. I bet that shit was real strong. Like, the hell, they made it right outside their house.
Right. Everybody had a winery, you know, and they were all making wine and enjoying wine. 50% wine, 50% water.
And you save alcohol. So
it's funny because you could actually find this in the book that we're going to be doing tomorrow, The Golden Ass. They talk about how this guy is infiltrating this den of thieves, right? And he just starts cutting back the water, right? Because he wants all these thieves to pass out. So he's, you know, he starts out handing out the kylixes with, 50% water. And then he's like, all right, a whole lot less water, a whole lot more wine. And so he's getting these guys drunk as fuck just so he could have them pass out and he could save the girl. But, yeah, so it's interesting. You know, they talk about.
That's also interesting, the water and the wine metaphor thing, you know? Yeah.
Where else have you seen that?
Yeah. What came first, chicken or the egg?
Right. Well, this wasn't very common in I guess Rome, they didn't do it. No, that was mostly a Greek thing. They just drank wine straight, you know. They weren't they weren't impregnating it with water. But, you know, if you think about it, you can actually do a lot with the water before you put it in the wine. But what's interesting to me is that the image of Chiron is always having him in the toga, right? He is the civilized centaur. All the rest of the centaurs, they don't wear clothes at all, right?
Right.
But of course, he's not covering up his junk because obviously his junk is further back.
Yeah,
so
he's hanging back.
What's he really covering? I think it was just more of a symbol of this is the elevated Chiron. This is the educated Chiron. This is the teacher, right?
Yeah, it shows that he has like a place of authority. Or he's like an elder, right?
Right. He was very old by the time he, started talking with Hercules and training him. So
I'm sure
he was always the elder
when he got
statesman.
to Achilles. Is that a rabbit hanging off of that?
It looks like it.
Nick?
But, he's the teacher of hunting. He was the teacher of the, agrarian arts. He's the guy who taught everything to Aristeus as well. So Aristeus was one of the ones mentored by him. Hercules, Achilles, all of these people went to the cave of Chiron and they were brought up. Do you remember in the movie Hercules, they showed him being mentored by this, faun or satyr.
Yeah. Phil.
But that wasn't accurate. Phil, right?
That was Phil.
It was another mythical creature. It was Chiron that was teaching. So it wasn't a satyr.
They should make a movie about Chiron.
That would be interesting. Well, in the movie Bugonia, the character of Chiron was played by the only Greek man in the film, right? And you know what part they kept? Of course, they kept the pedophilia, right? They had to, because it's one of these movies where they're just going with the modern interpretation of anything. So they turned him into a cop, right? And this cop was also the babysitter of the main character. And so he kept apologizing to the main character over and over again, to Jesse, about what he did when he was younger. And he's like, I didn't do it to anybody else. It was just you. And it's like, they're going with this modern interpretation of Chiron, which is, this horrible pedophile. And guess what? He didn't teach Jesse anything. All they had to do to make it a much more interesting, better movie was just by having him be more of a teacher character. What if this cop was actually the guy who taught this Jesse about the aliens, right?
Right.
That would have changed the whole thing, because the whole time when the cop shows up at the house, you're thinking, oh, well, he's going to, there's a tension there between, this woman trying to get free from the basement and, maybe this cop who could save her. Well, what if the cop is the guy who actually instructed him to start kidnapping these aliens in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
That would have changed the whole dynamic. But as you can see here, Chiron is the preeminent sort of teacher of the heroes. So if you look at the Scythians were kind of the teachers of the Greeks, right? The Scythians occupied this role of both being the goldsmith of the Greeks and the police force of the Greeks. Goldsmith and policing. These are two very separate things, right? What are these Scythians, these horseback riding nomads, doing as the police and also the goldsmiths? This is where Proto-Indo-European comes in very handy, because the Scythian language, the Greek language, all of these roots come through Proto-Indo-European. And in the Proto-Indo-European roots, what we find is that these Germanic tribes, like the Scythians, had a split, right? So from the Scythians, you would have the Pelasgians, and the Pelasgians ended up becoming the Mycenaeans, and the Mycenaeans ended up becoming the Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, you can kind of see that they were going to the Scythians as sort of like the root culture for the Greeks. What were the Scythians doing, or what were the Pelasgians doing before any of this stuff in Greece? Well, the Proto-Indo-European tribes, the first people on horseback, the Yamnaya and all the rest of them, what they would do is they would set up shop in these, places where you would have populations of humans, and they would stay separate. And they said, look, if you pay us a little bit of money every month, a little bit of gold every month, we'll give you protection.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the police force and the goldsmiths from way back before the Greeks, right? When the Greeks first saw these people on horseback, or these tribes on horseback, they were thinking that they were all one thing, right? That's the primitive perspective that gives you the centaur. Well, those same centaur people kind of occupy a position of authority within the Greek civilization, as not only the people you give your gold to, but also the police, because they're protecting you.
Right.
So the centaur idea, if the academics are right about people getting confused about who's the horse, who's the rider, could go back to that Proto-Indo-European root, which was all about, basically setting up shop. Nobility would then become the landlord, and you would pay the landlord to keep you safe. Very, very old perspective. Now, within the war parties themselves, which, these bands of Scythians would be these tribal war parties, they would give gifts to one another, right? They would give tribute to one another using gold, because gold was the flesh of the gods, right?
Yeah.
So if you had a good tribal leader, you would want to make these very immaculate golden trinkets for them. And you would give gifts back and forth. So your tribal leader would take the gifts from these other tribes, and then together they would have this gold reserve. Gold reserves. So this is the beginning of banking, right? This is the beginning of the gold trade. These are the guys that gave gold its value.
Nice.
Because it was the flesh of the gods.
I wish you
So this
still had gold. It'd be nice.
Right, but basically this is like the beginning of civilization. And they didn't have the written language. They were just going around being assholes and, enjoying it, having a good time. But these war tribes were very important because these were the only guys that had the horse, right? The F-16 in the Stone Age, right? They bred the horse from a stout creature whose legs were too short, whose head was too big, and they turned it into a war weapon. If you've ever spent time around horses, they're skittish. They're scared of everything. They had to breed these things and train these things to want to go into battle. If you've ever ridden on a horse, how many times do you think you could take that horse into battle with you? Well, if you look at guys like Alexander the Great, who had a favorite horse throughout all of these battles as he was conquering the entire Asian continent, pretty much, you gotta ask yourself, how linked were these horses to the riders? Like, they were thinking with one mind on the battlefield. That's an incredible amount of spiritual prowess when you think about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, people who own horses and people who breed horses and train horses, that's kind of like a spiritual relationship that they have with the horses. They like sing to them and stuff, and like, like very smart creatures. So do you think it was just symbolic then of these horsemen?
I don't know if smart is the right word as much as it is perceptive, right? Prey animals have to be more perceptive than the predators. They have to be more in tune with their environment. They have to know when to run and when to hang out.
Right.
And between horse and rider, what you find is that you have the synchronization between the horse and the rider to get maximum like the horse is thinking, what does my rider want me to do? This is how I survive. And the rider is thinking, how can I get more in tune with the horse so that we can be better in battle? So it's almost like the merging of man and animal, right?
Right.
That's important, right? This is the foundational building block of how these Proto-Indo-European people were able to conquer everything, is by merging their consciousness with a horse. And horses have incredibly large energetic fields, right? And for them to let you into that energetic field and know your heartbeat, something not too uncommon when we're talking about, these prey animals turned domestic animals. You get this a lot with cows too. Cows are like big giant field puppies, right?
Well, yeah.
You develop a relationship with a cow, they're never going to forget that.
Especially the ones that you milk, like the little milking cows there. But the big, the ones that you breed for beef or whatever. I don't know, man. I've seen those charge after people and kids and try to break through fences and stuff, like nearly kill themselves trying to get at somebody. Those things can fuck you up. But yeah, those other cows, they're sweet, man. They're real sweet.
But, these are all characteristics that were bred into them in a time when the written word wasn't around. They had to pass this stuff on from generation to generation and create these breeds of cows, breeds of horses. And that took an immense amount of patience and resource, very resource heavy, right? You had to constantly be rotating them around the land. And again, that's what these Scythians were doing. These were nomadic peoples that had basically the top weapon that anybody had ever seen before. And to think that maybe the centaur idea comes from this merging of consciousnesses, it's a really different way of looking at things, right? I mean, it wouldn't just be the Scythians who would be centaur-like. You would also have up on the steppe, you've got these the Huns, right? You've got all these other horse people that were really heavily influenced by these Proto-Germanic tribes, right? These Proto-Germanic tribes sort of set the whole basis for what we have today in a lot of ways, especially with the gold, and also the Mongolia. on the Mongolian steppe, they're still engaging in that ancient way of life, you know? And to this day, the rest of Asia and Europe are still scared of Mongolians. Like, if they ever get back on their shit, we're fucked. You know,
Yeah,
the
I'd be
rest of
scared of the
Europe and
Mongols
Asia,
too, dude.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
terrifying.
they're bred to fucking like, you know, like their best friends are hawks, you know, or falcons.
Right?
Falcons. Um,
But you can see why Deus Pater, these ancient gods, would be so important to them. And what's interesting is that all of these Greek philosophers, they were taught by Scythians. They were taught by Chiron. This is where they got their religious basis from, is these nomadic tribes, right? So Deus Pater is one of the Scythian Goth gods, right? That was sort of the center of their world. And they developed all of this stuff through Greek society from this Deus Pater character. A lot of the stuff about Zeus and Kronos and all the rest of this stuff comes through that Scythian line, like this Sky Father, right? And the Sky Father, Urnanos, Anu, all the rest of these things really come through that that nomadic tribesman version of reality. The sky and the earth, Gaia and Uranus, right? So
a combination of heaven, and it's also, you know, the spiritual with the physical meaning, and that's with the the symbolism with the horse and the man. You know, it's his the nature of I guess his higher and lower nature always being represented by animals, and it always means something different, but you find that a lot. But no, I like to think that these dudes were, you know, half horses, you know, taking charge and wrecking shit.
Well, by the time that we get into sort of the contemporary Greek history, where they're writing down all the stories, Centauromachy, or the centaur battles, had already happened. So they had already been wiped out by the time that they're being written about by these Greek historians, right?
Damn,
And
dude.
Centaur,
all of them?
That's what they say, yeah. And it was
They've gone
Hercules.
into Hollow Earth.
Could have. But again, you know, there's not too many other cultures that really see that. And some people say that they were the sons of Apollo as well. So Apollo is also another sky daddy character, right? He's the sun, he's light.
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, it's
this right here. Who's he training right here?
I'm not sure. But that could be Hercules, because Hercules is the one who accidentally stabbed Chiron with the arrow that had the poison
from Hydra, right?
From the Hydra. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had to like do some kind of trade with Prometheus for his immortality or something, and set Prometheus free, right?
Well, that's what saved Prometheus for a long time, until he was released by Hercules. So Heracles was the son of Zeus, going against his father's wishes to release Prometheus from the Caucasus Mountains. And again, Caucasus Mountains, the Black Sea region, this is all about the Scythians, right? And so they had a Scythian version of Prometheus as well. So it's not just China that has a Prometheus. It's not just the Greeks that has a Prometheus. It's not just Rome that sort of takes the Mithras character and combines the Chinese Prometheus with the Greek Prometheus. It's also the Scythians that have a Scythian Prometheus as well. And so the Scythian Prometheus has a very strong similarity to this stuff. And again, here we see the Scythian horseback riders granting eternal life to Prometheus and then being released by the son of Zeus. So Prometheus was a huge threat to the gods. If it wasn't for Prometheus, the Olympians would not have beaten the Titans, right? So Prometheus, his gift was forethought. That's what his name means, Prometheus, which would be pro-thought, forethought. His brother is Epimetheus, which is afterthought. So Prometheus was the incredibly smart one, and Epimetheus was incredibly dumb.
Okay.
Which gets us to the first women.
I think Benjamin said the wounded healer. Yeah, wasn't Chiron like a healer of some sorts, and he couldn't even heal himself whenever.
Chiron taught the healing arts, and there was no cure for the Hydra's blood. It is an uncurable poison. And that could be in reference to some sort of drug as well. You know, they like to use all sorts of exotic herbs and stuff. There could have been Hydra herb that made you mad forever, but you know, like they were all about the divine madness. So this could be relating to other things that we might have lost throughout the years. Shout out to Epimetheus. So Epimetheus, this is one of the stories of creation. Epimetheus is tasked with giving the animals, the newly minted animals, all these very interesting traits that made them unique. So to the cats, he would give the claws, right? And to the birds, he would give wings. And then when man came up to bat, he was all out of stuff.
So
he didn't have any special things.
So his brother took care of man. Okay.
Gave us forethought.
Knowledge. Yeah. Fire.
Well, that's part of it, but you know, the fire element of it was already part of mankind. Zeus took it away from us. So he had to go on to Mount Olympus to get it back for us, because essentially Prometheus was the origin of mankind. He was making a new Titan race out of the clay, out of the earth, not the spiritual substance, but the earthly substance, because that's sort of what the Titans are. They're more earthy.
This is Inky, dude. It's the same. Inky was making what's his name? It'll come to me, but he was making, doing the same stuff out of clay and stuff, and making other types of humanoids. Almost, you could say, like any type of cryptid, this guy seemed to have genetically engineered, you know.
Right. And as I went over last time, we were talking about the Promethean plays. So we only have Prometheus Bound, right? But it was a 3-part play, right? So there were 2 other parts. Again, the first part of Prometheus, where he's turning on the Titans to join the Olympians and fight against the Titans in Titanomachy. And then Prometheus Bound, where he's stuck up on this mountain, and all of these characters are coming and paying their condolences and trying to get information out of them. One of the main things that Zeus wanted to get out of Prometheus was the name of Zeus's successor. And so he kept sending Hermes to the mountain to get the name out of Prometheus, because Prometheus knows the future, right? And so he's trying to torture Prometheus into telling him who the successor to Zeus is going to be. I think he keeps it a secret, but it's Achilles. Achilles was supposed to be the successor to Zeus. And so when Achilles' soul is incarnate on the earth, that's when his mother, Achilles' mother, dips him in the river Styx by his ankle. So he cannot be touched. It's very similar to the stories in Norse mythology with, is it Tyr? Where the only way that you can kill him is with the sprig of mistletoe.
No, it's Balder.
Balder, there we go.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, agreement. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking at stuff on Prometheus right now. So
that's not a bad combination. Chiron and Virgo, that's not particularly
wait,
bad.
are you talking about what Ben said?
Yeah. We have a
Oh,
couple of centaurs in the sky, but Chiron, after giving his immortality to Prometheus, Zeus decides to add him to the constellations. And so we've got Centaurus, right? And then is it Sagittarius?
I think.
I think it's Sagittarius. That's the other one. But the Centaurus is a southern sky, and I believe Sagittarius is the western sky. But again, like we see the idea of archery, and we see the idea of horseback archery, which is something that is, one of the most important sports in all of Mongolia is this horseback archery. It shows not only mastery of the animal, it shows mastery of the weapon, and having these, people on horseback firing arrows in a time when people were throwing stones, you're screwed. I mean, what could you possibly do against several riders on horseback firing arrows at you? Give me a break. You're done.
Yeah, you're cooked, especially Mongolians.
Right.
See.
But I think, they want to kind of bastardize Chiron because there you go.
Hey, Fire Pixie. I love you
Welcome.
too. Hey, so was Prometheus being bound like symbolic for knowledge being kept, or for what'd you say, foresight? I don't know, for something within the collective of, I don't know, humanity, or the
Hubris.
Greeks.
When it comes to the Greeks, it's all about hubris. If you show hubris towards the people who rule over you, you're going to get smacked back down.
Okay.
Right. So the hubris that we see with, flying too close to the sun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Daedalus
Icarus.
and Icarus. Right.
Yeah.
And we see this over and over again throughout all of Greek mythology. It's the hubris that brings down the heroes. Right. Jason in the Argonauts, he's brought down by hubris. Basically all of them.
Achilles, right?
Achilles also.
Yeah.
Well, he goes into the temple of Apollo and just starts smashing shit up, and he thinks, whatever. And it was Apollo that killed Achilles. He's the one who directed the arrow straight into his Achilles tendon. But also very, the idea is you have to act as a team. And
we got to watch Troy, dude. We should watch Troy one night, do a watch party and watch Troy. It's a good fucking movie. That was like the last era of good war movies, like Troy and Alexander. Well, they made everyone in Alexander gay.
Right.
Like as soon as the women as soon as like all the dudes got together in the room, they'd be like, tell the women to leave. It's like, what the fuck, man? Like, I don't know if they were like, no, I don't know if they were doing that. What's
if
do you think it's
get
just
into
them just
if you get into the Leather Apron Club, right?
Mhm.
Have you ever heard of that? So
Yeah.
this guy named Leather Apron Club, he's got this massive debunk on the gay Greeks. This all came out of the 1970s through Christianity and the academics, right? They both had their own reasons to try and gay jacket the Greeks.
They said the same thing about the Spartans too.
Right.
They were touching boys and stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe that.
With the Spartans, there's a little bit more evidence, but again, what they were trying to do is create school shooters with the Spartans.
Oh, shit.
They were all about creating. Okay, so one of the initiatory rituals for these young boys in Sparta was to raise a puppy, bring it to the temple, and then kill the puppy. Right? They were trying to make.
They were trying to make warriors, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, to do that with every. I mean, dude. I don't know. To live in
The
that time,
Spartans were
I mean, it was kind of the norm when it was happening.
the Spartans were the outcasts from the rest of Greece. The rest of Greece wanted to live a good life and not just always be in war mode all the time. But the Spartans specifically wanted to be in war mode all the time.
Why didn't they just make them go find like a fucking wolf and try to befriend it and make it like it's like, I don't know,
Like in the movie
its
300.
companion or something? Yeah, did that happen in the movie? I didn't know that. I didn't remember that. I haven't seen the movie in a while.
That's what they kind of replaced it with is this idea that, oh yeah, they're part of the wolf tribe or whatever. But really
Okay.
what they were doing.
Well, yeah, maybe they
So
were doing some weird shit, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't believe that they were all gay. I don't know. It just we wouldn't
no,
like have been here if they were all gay, you know? Like
they had about 76 pieces of pottery that they used to imply that all the Greeks were gay. 76. And so
did they
what
have
did is
dicks on it and stuff?
well, no, they actually didn't go for that.
Because
They
you
wanted
have
to
shown
have
me a lot of
right.
pieces
There was a
of
lot of fertility worship.
pieces, you know,
Right.
pieces of pieces, you know.
Right. They had a lot of fertility
A
worship
lot of
going on
yeah,
all over Greek.
yeah.
Right. Right. So the Greek world was just awash in dick statues, right? But this was, the same reason why Japan is awash in dick statues. Polytheistic cultures view fertility as one of the highest aspirations of their society. You've got to have more children. You've got to, promote more children. You've got to have these dick statues march through the streets so that everybody gets that fertility energy. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to get more soldiers,
The
trying to get
dicks
more
just
warriors.
turn people on?
I think it's more of the
Or like
symbolic
they
nature.
see and it's like activated in their brain that sexual thought or whatever.
Well, you don't think about it, but
Energy.
fertility really is a mystical energy, right?
Right. That's
You
what I was
can't
saying.
really,
That energy is activated.
right. So you can't really know why a woman is fertile or why she's not fertile. You could track her cycles and everything, and you could do everything right, but it's not taken. She's not getting pregnant. And you got to wonder, like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this image? What do I need to do differently? Well, you need to start marching those dick statues down the street so that the women get the fertility energy that comes through, springtime and all the rest of the stuff. They have their dick festivals in the spring, and then you've got it all through the streets. You've got your rituals, and in some ways, it's like it's before a baseball game. You've got to go through the same ritual every time so that you can get similar results. That's what they were going through with all this, dick stuff. And also it's funny. It's hilarious. So they would have a good laugh at it, right? So you've got one of the major rural gods is Priapus, right? Who's just got a massive schlong, right? And he's an idiot, right? So I think I probably got over this. What's that? Priapus. Just spelled like the pre-epic, if it lasts more than 4 hours, call your doctor.
Here we go.
That's where you get the name Priapus.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's pull this guy up real fast.
No, don't pull him up.
Don't pull him up.
We're going to get banned.
Oh shit.
Don't do it.
Really? He'll get banned for this? I mean, he has a huge hog, dude. Like
just describe it to the people.
Okay, guys. So in this one statue, his penis is holding up a fruit basket. And he's headless. I guess the statue's headless. Somebody chopped off the head. In this other one, he's standing over a fruit basket, and the
fruit basket is the bounty
to his penis. Something's tied to his penis. His penis is uncircumcised. That was maybe a little gay. Sorry. Well, this is maybe a little gay in its entirety, but we're not going to think about that. So and then there's another one. I think he's holding the rod of Asclepius, maybe, or what's the other one?
You've got the
no,
rod of
it's the
Asclepius, and
caduceus,
the
not the caduceus,
caduceus,
but it's the other one.
Asclepius, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
caduceus.
yeah. It's one or
But
the other.
what
Huge.
he's
Jesus Christ.
what he's basically doing is you have to measure the bounty against Priapus, since Priapus is like this fertility god, right? And so he's the god of all this fresh produce coming in, and it's sort of like he's the fertility one. He doesn't. He's considered like a clown or a joker, right? He's an idiot. Why isn't he an idiot? Because he's got a big schlong.
Okay, I'm gonna pull this one to the side because I have to ask you about this one. This one's weird. No, there's no dicks on it, but it's has something to do with Priapus. So, yeah, for anyone who just not tuning in, I was describing what Priapus looked like with his phallus and everything. Let me share this. So, what's going on here with this donkey, dude?
Oh, is
I typed
this?
in Priapus.
Yeah, there could be something with the donkey, because donkey's got a big old member. I'm not sure what this looks like. A sleep paralysis
the little
demon.
homunculus on yeah, I was gonna say, dude, that's
that's a perfect
definitely,
depiction of a sleep paralysis demon, and the
he looks
donkey
like a
sees it.
satyr almost, though. Look at his legs. They look like they're
Right.
covered in hair.
Yeah, he looks like a satyr. He looks like he's afflicting this woman in her sleep, and the only person who could see it is the donkey. It's kind of like a Balaam motif.
Dude, that's wild.
Because Balaam the donkey, he could see things that Balaam's donkey could see things that Balaam could not. And that's a really interesting story too, because he was trying to scam the Jews. And there's something going on with the Jewish people. Right. There's something going on with the Jewish people and the donkey that gets really weird, really dark.
Well, I guess we'll talk about that tomorrow, won't we? On Esoteric Book Review. Guys, tune in the morning on Patreon. Headless, you could probably just stream it to your YouTube as well. We are reading some of the Golden Ass. Then I'm having Stein from Greyhorn Pagans on to talk about the Norse pantheon and the creation story and all that. It's going to be fun. I have a lot of questions. So,
right. Odin is not the creation god.
Ma'am?
No. Odin is one of the later generations. The creator god comes before him. I'm just not that good on Norse mythology. But so Priapus, whenever it's time to perform, it doesn't work. But whenever he's not performing, he's rock hard. And so he's kind of this hapless character. He can never use it how gods have intended it to be used, but it's always hard. So he's got a problem. So they're always laughing at him. And what you find is that in the heroes have really tiny schlongs, right? The hero gods, the whatever, because they believe that you have two brains, right? You got one up here and one down here. And if the one down there is huge, then the one up there is tiny.
Yeah, I think you explained that to me before.
What they would do is they would show you and if you think about it in battle, you don't want a guy with a massive schlong in battle, right? Because chances are
he's going to be flopping around and falling on the ground, and he's going to be stepping on it. Yeah, dude.
Right. Because they're fighting naked. So there's that as well.
No. Well, okay. That goes back to Sumeria with those like naked wrestling matches that the gods would have.
Right.
Yeah. Weird stuff.
Big. Well, again, like the gymnasiums in Greece is a bunch of naked dudes, right? And obviously, in today's academic world, they're like, oh, they're just having lots of sex in these gymnasiums, but that's not exactly the case. Homosexuality was illegal. So they weren't doing each other, because how easy would it be to take out a political rival or whatever if you find out that they're... Also, pedophilia was illegal. The term pederasty was basically kind of a joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they would always be calling young boys and stuff this derogatory word for a receiving homosexual. And it's weird, because it's just like they're giving shit to these kids for being kids, and they're like, you're the catcher, right? But it was more of a slang term, not necessarily an actual physical representation of what they were doing. Education in Greece was different from what we think of as public school now, or at least even in Samaria, they had these massive schools for all the scribes, and you could see weird notes being passed from these kids in scribe school to their mothers, telling them they want a new tunic, whatever. They're sending out letters made of brick to their mothers, so we can read everything they did in Samaria. But they weren't using brick letters in Greece, so it becomes a little bit harder to piece things together. But basically everything in Samaria was written down on bricks, so we have all of it. We've got too much knowledge about the Sumerians and the Akkadians and all the rest of them, because everything is written down in stone.
Cuneiform. Yeah.
Right. So it's really fascinating, all the parallels, but I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of Samaria, just because it's just too much knowledge, right? They have whole libraries.
It's a lot. The basic story is, it's pretty interesting, but it's a lot of just betrayal and, be honest, incest. Yeah. Right. It's really what you see in the Old Testament, especially with Enki, though. Like he impregnates everybody and everything, turning into animals as well, just like Zeus and stuff. You know how Zeus turns into a swan and all that, which could be symbolic, but yeah,
and the bull.
Yeah, those stories are fascinating to say the least. And then you see the similarities between the Old Testament and the Sumerian stories. Like when me and you were talking, we were talking about Michael and Raphael destroying Sodom and Gomorrah or whatever. And in the Sumerian stories, these cities are cities of Marduk. And they're going to destroy Marduk cities because they just don't like, he is their Satan, he is their adversary, Right. And they're like laughing about it and seeing how many, they're like counting the numbers that they can kill and proclaiming themselves like the Scorcher. What does he call himself? Era, the Scorcher, and Ninurta calls himself something. But yeah, they're like cackling and
the Sumerians loved to show off how many people they killed. And in their steles, they put it, well, I mean, this is, post-Sumerian, more post-Akkadian, right? Mm-hmm. But they become more and more warlike, and it becomes their job to go from town to town, chopping off as many heads as possible to collect as much tribute as possible. But this tribute system certainly does go back to this Proto-Indo-European culture, where you have to pay the warlords so that they'll protect you. But they kind of reverse the order. So you've got to kill as many as possible so that they come back and know that you're serious and you mean business. So the Neo-Assyrian Empire would leave these piles of heads outside of these cities. And if those piles of heads were disturbed in any way, they'd go back in and fill them up again. But it was, really costly to their society, and nobody was farming anymore because they were just too busy killing everybody. So the tribute became less and less valuable over time. And to make matters worse, the Tigris and the Euphrates River were very salty rivers. So as they're spreading all of this, salty water all over their fields, it'll accumulate year by year until they've salted their own fields and there's nothing growing anymore. So by the time the 10,000 roll around, which is this story from Greece about these 10,000 soldiers that are used as mercenaries over in Mesopotamia and Iran or Persia, right? They're seeing all of these ziggurats that have been abandoned for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they're like, what the hell is this? They don't realize that those civilizations actually gave birth to a lot of the gods over in Greece. So they're looking at their origin stories and they have no idea, because they've been able to keep it pretty much preserved in this oral history.
And in these Sumerian stories, I mean, dude, it's pretty plain that they were walking around, like, you know, and I don't know, maybe they're seeing them in visions, because I have talked with people about the whole astrotheology angle on it, and it all makes sense. But there's something, I don't know, I don't want to say otherworldly, but definitely from some other realm, these entities that have inhabited these archetypes and played the roles of these characters in these mythologies and these stories. There's something to it, though. Like they're connected. That's what I first started off doing. I just started off, you know, in the Abrahamic, more, you know, the Sumerian stories, Assyria, Babylon, all that stuff, up to Egypt. I didn't really go past that I didn't start talking about the Greek pantheon, the Roman pantheon, until I started talking to you, or even any other European pantheons, dude. To be honest with you, I don't know. It's kind of stuck in these few little, but now definitely seeing different connections. Like I was telling you earlier, I have to go back and redo these charts, which is going to take a couple weeks, but it's worth it. I'll put them on Patreon afterwards.
Really sick pantheon, like
well, I need your help with it then, and we can put it on the Occult Research Institute website and all that good stuff.
You got to look into the Etruscans. The Etruscans were really weird. Really weird.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to make like charts and graphs, because that's I can do it, dude. If you help me, I'm very good at organizing things and making you know, I have tons of notebooks full of notes and all the, you know. Anyway,
but the Etruscans were very, very close to obviously the Romans took over for the Etruscans, but the Etruscan language was another language isolate, right? So the Sumerians, language isolate, Etruscans, language isolate. There's another society over in one of my good friends, Corinne Atlas. She comes from a language isolate group over in Spain, right? These language isolate groups, they assume, are like the very first peoples, because there are no other languages that contributed to their language that they could find. But the Proto-Indo-European language was like the feeder language for Greek, German, Gothic, Roman, all of those other languages. They're all Proto-Indo-European roots. Whereas language isolate groups, like the Sumerians, they're very special groups. Very special.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the one group that people say is, you know, certain amount of years old, but when you look at the King's List and all that, it's like, how old was that civilization? You know?
What would they actually try to say with the King's List? And it's really interesting too. So Akkadian, right? So the Akkadians were just north of Sumer. That's a Proto-Indo-European language. Sumerian, language isolate. So the Akkadians tried to keep Sumerian as sort of like the religious language for their people, but they couldn't keep it up. It was just too weird to them.
That's why the pantheons were so similar.
Right. They wanted to keep it holy. They wanted to keep the cities holy. They wanted to keep the gods and goddesses holy, because they really loved the Sumerians even after defeating them in battle. It was like this blooming of civilization. Sargon of Akkad was the first conqueror of the Sumerians, right? And his story is really interesting because it mirrors almost exactly Moses' story. He was found in the bulrushes in a basket by a royal family, and he was taught in that royal family. And he then becomes the lawgiver to the people, Sargon of Akkad. So Sargon and Moses have so much in common. It's really hard not to see that they kind of
dude. Moses was doing some shit in that desert, dude. My wife came up to me and was like, Moses was weird as fuck. I was like, yeah, dude, he was an alchemist. I was like, he came from the land of Kim. Like, y'all really don't think he was in that desert? He had the sigil of Thoth. He was doing alchemy in that tent or wherever he was, like making flames appear and stuff. Like, yeah, he was doing alchemy. He's depicted with, and people, why is he depicted with horns? And those are alchemical horns. You will see other pictures of alchemists depicted with these horns coming from their, I don't know what the link is to like the metaphysical part, but
it's kingship.
Okay.
It's kingship. This shows a level of mastery over the environment, over yourself, over all these things. The horns represents, this is the ancient form of showing that you're a king, is having these horns. And it's interesting, back to the centaurs, the Cyprian centaurs had ox horns, which is very close to the idea of the moon, right? So the Cyprus, the centaurs that lived on Cyprus had ox horns. Kind of interesting. Were they the kings of that sort of, centaur society? I don't know. Maybe. But we've lost a lot of history when it comes to the centaurs and when it comes to mythology because who needs to know about this stuff? But I think it stretches so far back in the past that people don't realize how significant it is, right? These oral histories. Plato complained about the written word. He says, we're losing our memory because everybody's writing everything down. We got to get back to what we were doing before with the oral history. It was so much better than writing everything down because now everybody's forgetting everything. How much worse is it with this?
Yeah.
But, this kind of goes into what I want to promote here is what Nick was working on for a long time, right? He has a special on, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
What's he talking about?
Alchemist who was burned at the stake. Hold on. Giordano Bruno. So
yeah,
he just got done.
I saw that.
Listen to that, because the irony of Giordano Bruno's story is just too rich, right? So Giordano Bruno is a Jewish guy in Spain. Well, he traveled all over the place. He went over from France over to England, and then back over to Spain, where he was ultimately burned at the stake. But Giordano Bruno was obsessed with the kind of stuff we're talking about, right? Obsessed with philosophy, obsessed with the classical world. He had all of this knowledge from the classical world. And one of the things he's best known for is the art of memory. They thought he was a witch because he had a working memory that was better than all the rest of them. He was using the techniques from Plato and all the rest of these polytheists in increasing and expanding his memory. And he brought that back to Europe because they had lost it because of the Jewish Bible. And this is
they lost the mysteries. Yeah, the Druidic. Yeah.
This is okay. So this is a Jewish man taking European culture, classical culture, and trying to bring it back into Europe, right? And in so doing, he pisses off the Philo-Semites, the Christians, who burn him at the stake for trying to re-Europeanize their culture.
That's the only reason that they
think about that for a second. Well, they didn't like any of his stuff, which he was informed by all of this ancient European stuff that hadn't been around for a long time. So
they couldn't just tell him to leave.
Well, they did several times. Everywhere we go, they'd be like, "Get that European stuff out of here. We're practicing the Semitic Bible."
Then
you're a witch. Your memory works.
Oh my God, he can float, right? Like,
He can
dude,
remember stuff.
that is fucking crazy.
But what's interesting too is the
Wow.
muses. Do you know who the mother of the muses are?
No.
Mnemosyne. Memory is the mother of inspiration.
Wow.
Memory is the mother of the 9 muses. Who's in charge of the 9 muses? Apollo. 9 plus the 1 is the 10. This is the Kabbalah tree you're looking at. Right?
Is this
Tether
the Greek Kabbalah
is Apollo.
that you were talking about? The Greek Kabbalah or whatever?
The Greek Kabbalah is reconstructed after Christianity basically says you're not allowed to know any of this stuff about the ancient gods. But we see with the 9 muses and Apollo being a perfect syncretism with the Kabbalah tree.
I'd like to have you on to talk about that sometime, dude.
Right. So the Kabbalah basically started out as Greek mythology, and there's a lot of it in, again, where did they get their gods from? They got it from the Mesopotamians, right? The Fertile Crescent. They had their own tree. You could see that bird putting the pine cone up to the tree
at the top of the Sephiroth, right?
At the top of the Sephiroth.
Dude, that's crazy you're saying this, because my co-host on Elohim Etymology said that. He said, because I was like, well, we know the pine cone, it can be a symbol for the pineal. And he was like, I think it is symbolic of, the sphere of the soul, or, well, I don't know. I can't remember exactly how he said it, coming up from Malkuth and to the top of the, tree of life. And I was like, oh, wow, dude. And that's crazy that he just, I don't know. He was talking about that over a year ago on this other show I was doing. And I didn't understand it like I do now. So
what were you saying about the pine cone? Because I got something to show you.
What about the pineal?
Pine cone, pineal?
Yeah.
All right. Take a look at this. Yeah. This is the hand of Sabazios. I've gone over this so many times. What's on that thumb right there?
The pine cone.
There's the pine cone right there on the thumb. Do you see the gesture he's making?
No.
So you got the 2 fingers right here, bloop, bloop, right in front of that snake that's wrapped around the whole thing.
I see that.
Right here, the thumb and these 2 fingers are up. This is called the hand of benediction in Christianity, but they just took the hand of Sabazios and made the hand of benediction. Right? So you can see all the symbols from all this Greek religion stuff all packed tightly into this one hand.
Dude.
Isn't that weird? So let's look up the hand of benediction.
Well, dude, even that pine cone symbol, going back like in Genesis 32, whenever Jacob wrestles with God, he calls the place Peniel. Like literally just spelled. So it's literally it's symbolic of him going into his, mind's eye and finding God, right? Like he was just an initiate. Like that's how I see it.
Absolutely. But we could see this hand of benediction. It's all over Catholicism, and they've got this massive pine cone out in front of the the Vatican.
Yeah, no, dude, you see pine cones. We went when we went to Lexington to see my sister-in-law. There was we went to, I think, the Robert E. Lee Church, and dude, there were pine cones everywhere. There was I actually posted some pictures on Instagram. There was a podium with a dove ascending and a triangle with an eye inside of it. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is oh my god, this is cool, man. And then it had oh dude, it had pine cones everywhere though. It was awesome. And then we went inside the school, the military school in where they have like a bunch of artwork and stuff, and they had the Cupid and Psyche thing,
Cupid and
and there they had statues outside of Athena, because I think it was the military school that we went to, so they had a statue of Athena outside, dude. They had a few of them, I'm pretty sure, a few different goddesses. I think they had a Minerva. Yeah.
Well, Minerva is the Roman Athena.
Yeah, so they had a few statues. It was awesome going there. I was like, and it's an old school, VMI or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. It was cool though. Oldest lodge ever too, right there in Glasgow. At my brother-in-law. Exactly. Anyway, not Illuminati confirmed, guys. He's not my brother-in-law yet, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's I don't want to say too much, but he's in the Blue Lodge. So it's just like a social thing, I'm pretty sure.
Well, they need to learn about these symbols because we're losing them fast.
He likes to hear me talk about stuff, dude.
Yeah.
He loves to hear my takes on things. So, but anyway, but you'll be joining us tomorrow morning for Esoteric Book Review.
Indeed, I will.
And if you like it, dude, you're more than welcome to join us again. Nick is usually there with us. I don't think he'll be able to join us tomorrow.
If you want to know about Cupid and Psyche, that's what this book has. It's got a massive section with the myth of Cupid and Psyche in it. In the same cave where this guy is trying to get these bandits drunk so that he can knock them out and then save his girl. It's a great book. I don't know why more people don't read it. Get the golden ass, people. The
golden ass, everybody. Headless gets paid every time he names the book. Hey, so give a conclusion. So, what does Chiron? What does he represent?
Well, to me, Chiron represents the idea of teaching and mastery, right? And so, Chiron is always sort of like the symbol of bringing up a new generation of heroes, right? There's a huge list of heroes that he trained in his cave. Again, kind of like the movie in Hercules. It's like all these other guys were chumps, but you're the champ, right? He's constantly trying to train these guys in the most humane and best way that he can. And so this is the symbol of Chiron is sort of like this elevated beast, right? Mm-hmm. He becomes more than a man. He becomes a god. He becomes this thing through his service to these kids who grow up to do these awesome things. So Chiron becomes sort of like the symbol for pedagogy in ancient Greece. That's how you're supposed to bring up young men, is the way that Chiron would teach them.
I like that.
Very important symbol, I think. Not a lot of people really make that association, but all the rest of the centaurs, they were complete beasts, right? This goes back to the bumbling nature of Heracles, is like he has to kill all these centaurs because they're completely out of control, and he ends up killing his teacher in the process. And even in his death, he commits an act of selfless service by giving Prometheus his immortality. But Chiron was, like, if you're talking about the Cave of Mysteries as well, the Eleusinian mystery schools, mm-hmm. You have to go into the Cave of Chiron to learn the mysteries. So there is an underworld element to this as well. And if I could go back to that hand of Sabazios, we see that Zeus was also
this.
Let me see here. There we go. Okay, so yeah. If you pull that up, you can see right there in the cave in the wrist, right? You see the cave in the wrist?
Mm-hmm.
That's Zeus being suckled inside of the cave, right? This would be Chiron's cave. This would be the learning cave. This would be the womb of the earth, right? He's suckling on the she-goat, right? And the she-goat has this other beast that would be what do they call it? With the eyes on their tail, right? So you've also got Hera. That's her symbol. It's peacock, right? So the peacock and Hera, and then baby Zeus, and it sort of grows up into all this other stuff. Now, this is the python that was slayed by Apollo, right? And we've also got the scales of Themis or DK, right? So all of the god symbols are sort of encapsulated into this one symbol, the hand of Sabazios. And so this was the hand of the mysteries.
I love
the
it.
Roman period,
I
right?
love it.
So this was kind of like a revitalization of the ancient ways. And they would have all sorts of weird stuff too. Like this guy
Can
over
I
here.
buy one of those?
Dude, I want to make one. I want to cast one of these things. They haven't made these things in 2,000 years. I think so all of the hand of Sabazioses would go on the top of a pole. So they would have an empty space inside the wrist, and you would lift this up so that everybody could follow you.
That's so fucking cool, dude. That's so cool, man. Oh,
here it is.
So, JC, look, that sounds fun. Yeah, I know. Oh, guys.
So this Sabazios right here, this Sabazios character was very closely associated with Dionysus, the dying and rising god myth.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so again, right here, it's the womb of the earth inside of the palm of the hand. You've got the eagle flying down. That's Zeus's eagle, Zeus's birth and Zeus's eagle, all in the same thing. Here's another weird one. Look at that. The huge pine cone right there. Right? You got the lizard. That would be kind of this, the fiery lizard. This is another instance of Sabazios. Again, like the hand of the mysteries was supposed to encompass all of the mysteries. And what do we see at the top? Right? We've got
Apollo,
the moon, and the sun.
Yeah.
You've got Hermes down here. But the hand of Sabazios, it's all of the things, all combined into one. It was like Catholicism, universalism.
Fascinating. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love it.
So if you guys want to help me cast a hand of Sabazios, let me know, because I definitely want to. Here's another good one. So,
that's cool.
What is the dark star on the thumb? The snake.
Yeah, I see the
eye in the belly.
That's very reminiscent of, like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of an eye of Horus.
Well, the Sabazios character is the link between East and West, right? Because oftentimes he's pictured with this moon. And the moon is the Shiva thing, right? So Shiva has the moon on his head, and Sabazios has the moon on his head. The dying and rising god. Shiva is supposed to sleep for thousands of years and then rise from the dead. And then all of this other stuff. And it all links back together through, I think, the most important. Here we go. That's another good one. You could see the moon right on top of his head, right? Just like Shiva. And he's also wearing the Phrygian cap.
Yeah. That's just like, I was going to say, that's just like fucking Thoth. I think he has the moon on his head as well.
Right? And so it's all coming through this spot in Turkey. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this is where Göbekli Tepe is. Right? Mm-hmm. This is the place where East meets West. This is all of it. So from here, it goes down into, Mesopotamia. And the Scythians actually occupied the Mesopotamian region for a long time. So Thrace, where all of this dying and rising god motif starts, is where Paul is sending his letters about Jesus. another dying and God, rising God that
So is he
centered
hearing
in
all
Thrace.
these stories in Thrace and basing his letters off of
Paul of
some of these
Tarsus. Where's
mythologies?
Tarsus? Tarsus is also in Anatolia. So there's a very ancient cult going on in Anatolia. This is where Handus Sabazios is coming out of,
Dude,
right?
yeah.
From
I need to
Thrace.
do a deep dive on the Anatolian gods. Very interesting pantheon.
Oh man, it gets so deep. And if you
Yeah,
go
dude.
watch Robbie Marks is
Well, let's get Robbie on for one of these. I don't know. Let's reach
yeah,
out.
dude.
Yeah, definitely, dude.
Yeah, we could definitely do that because there is a rustic motif to a lot of this stuff as well. Again, it's frontierism, right? They're showing you the frontier of knowledge, the frontier of wisdom, and all the rest of these things is encompassed in their symbols that they're trying to give to you and expanding your brain, right? Here are the symbols. Make it work inside your head. And once you do, that's like an initiation.
Yeah.
So it seems really chaotic and completely nonsensical crazy from the outside. But once you can start to put these pieces together, you could take it all the way back to the origin of of mankind, really. I mean, Gobekli Tepe. And in Gobekli Tepe, they have what they call the master. Well, no, they don't call it that there, but there's this motif called the Master of Beasts, right? You see this a lot in Samaria as well. The Master of Beast motif is this guy with his hand on his junk, a lot like Priapus.
Priapus. Is he a rustic god?
Very much so.
Oh, I can't wait for that episode, dude.
We can go from Priapus to his Roman counterpart with it, which is Fascinus.
We've talked about Fascinus before. He's even better, His is even bigger, I think. If I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, dude.
Wrap it up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have to make that stream for the morning. So if you want to put your plugs in, dude.
All right. So if we were talking about alchemy, I've got an alchemy show on Monday. Alchemy Mondays. So definitely check that out. And I've got the trialogues with Ethan Indigo and Ricardo. So check that out on Sunday as well. And I've got a bunch of podcasts that I'm doing tomorrow as well. So check all of those out and it'll be a good time. Definitely look up the Rustic Gods on Theoi. Theoi is a great resource for all of this stuff. They try to get the parentage right. They try to tell you the variations on it. And they also have all of the Orphic hymns. I don't think there's an Orphic hymn to Chiron, but there's a lot of Orphic hymns. They have a lot of repeating Orphic hymns too. Everybody had their own variations on this stuff. Land is how they saw the gods, right? So land was the lens, and from that lens, you get a lot of variations from place to place, but essentially, it's all coming through the same source.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like I said, I've learned a lot from these episodes doing these with you. So
absolutely. Well, it's been fun. I mean,
I have to raid somebody now because I'll get bitched at by him if I don't.
Rustic trombone.
Like Jules didn't even fucking raid me. Yeah, guys,
we're kind of at the frontier place too, because rustic gods are frontier gods, right? So outside of the cities, outside of all this stuff, it was unconquered territory. This is where the bravest people were. And we're at a frontier point ourselves. Like, we don't know which way we're going to be going as a society. So I think having the knowledge of all of this frontierism will give us better examples of how to form stuff that works.
Definitely. Again, I'm learning a lot every episode, dude. So I'm glad we decided to do this together. Guys, be sure to like the stream, share it, tune in next week, and you can catch us tomorrow morning. It'll be on the Grey Pill Patreon, patreon.com/greypilledpodcast. You can go over there. We do the esoteric book reviews every Saturday. We do watch parties on there. You get links to all the group chats in the Discord, and you get sticker packs, and then early release of the Elohim etymologies when those start dropping again. But yeah, this will be tomorrow morning. We're doing the Golden Ass with Headless. Then after that, I'm having Stein from the Great Horn Pagans on to talk about the Norse gods and all of that, the Aesir and the Vanir. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like I said, I've been wanting to do it since I started Grey Pilled, so finally. And then, Sunday, I'm going on Inquiries of Reality with Shane. That's going to be a banger. I'll be streaming that to my channels probably. Yeah, guys, follow me on Twitter at greypilledpod, Instagram greypilled_podcast, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Like I said, if you want to support the show, Patreon's a good way to do it. Cash App, Jules Preston, or you can go to buymeacoffee/greypilled, Ko-fi/greypilled. I even have a powerchat.live/greypilled, which I have to start doing. I'm going to start using OBS maybe here soon. Was on with Connie last night behind the scenes talking about some stuff. Oh yeah. We have a show we're doing tomorrow later in the day that will be dropping. It's not live, but it's a new show that we started doing. I think Dick from Murder of the Media, Assbutt, and Connie, which they had Adam Green on Tuesday, by the way, guys. So go check out Horseshoes Hand Grenades. It's a very interesting conversation they had. But they did a segment last week where it's like making fun of debates, I guess. And I'm the moderator for the one tomorrow. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time with it. And maybe I could post it to my channel after we're done. So, yeah. Thank y'all for coming and hanging out with us tonight. And we will see y'all later. And guys, y'all follow the Occult Rejects channel, occultresearchinstitute.org. You can find everybody over there and kind of what they do. Maybe I can contribute some eventually. Maybe I'll be of some use. We'll see. Who knows? But anyway, until next time, guys, stay Grey Pilled. Later.